Good afternoon, and thank you for standing by. I'd like to inform all participants that your lines have been placed on a listen-only mode until the question and answer session of today's call. Today's call is also being recorded. If anyone has any objections, you may disconnect at this time. I would now like to turn the call over to Dwayne Brown. Thank you. You may begin.
Thank you, operator, and thank you all for joining us on a truly historic day for the Artemis program. I'm Dwayne Brown with NASA Communications, coming to you from the Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, and we are thankful for them for hosting us. The format today is going to be quite simple. You saw the rollout to the public, the companies, and the models. So we're going to take a little deeper dive into the incredible science and timelines and other subjects surrounding today's announcement. I'm going to turn it over to the Deputy Associate Administrator for Exploration, Steve Clark. Then you're going to hear from Chris Colbert, and then we'll hear from the CEOs, and then we're going to take questions. So that's simple, and there's a replay number also, and if you call the Public Affairs contacts on the press release, we'll be able to get those to you. And, of course, you can get everything on www.nasa.gov and, I believe, Moon 2024. Is that right? Okay. All right. So let's get started. So let me toss it to Steve Clark.
Okay. Thank you, Dwayne, and good afternoon, everyone. Well, this has been a very important day for NASA and our commercial partners. This has been a very exciting day to actually announce 3 commercial lunar payload services providers, and I'm looking forward to working with them in more detail to have NASA payloads delivered to the surface of the moon. These, and we call them commercial lunar payload services providers, CLPS for short, so you'll probably hear that quite a bit on the telecon here. But these CLPS providers are really leading the way for our return to the moon as part of the Artemis program. And these are precursor missions prior to us landing the first woman and the next man on the surface of the moon in 2024. So we're looking forward to taking science and technology demonstration payloads along the way. And what's really interesting about this is NASA is one of many customers. We are buying a ride, essentially. We are going to be one of several passengers with our instruments and technology demonstration payloads, along with Astrobotic, Intuitive Machines, and Orbit Beyond. So this is a new innovative approach that NASA is embarking on, working with our commercial partners. The commercial industry has matured to a point where I think this is a very successful endeavor, and time will tell if this model works, but I am completely confident that indeed we're on the precipice of a new public-private partnership model we're going to see a lot of success. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris Colbert, who is our CLPS project manager. Chris?
Thank you, Steve. And welcome to all of you on the telephone. We're happy to be here today. A little bit of context for you. The Commercial Lunar Payload Services contract is a contract we established last fall. We actually have 9 companies under contract. We'll be talking to 3 of them today who are the recipients of our first payloads to deliver to the moon. This is a 10-year contract looking at ways to reshape the way NASA does business. We've gone from awarding a contract to the 9 companies in the fall to already ordering delivery services just 5 months later, and within 2 years we'll have 3 companies putting services on the moon. Part of what we're trying to do is a new way of doing business that enables NASA to take advantage of the commercial capabilities and their ability to be agile, to be nimble, and to be quick. That allows us to get more work done at a lower cost. That's very important to NASA, and it's the way we want to do business under Artemis. We're trying to get things done more quickly. The other thing to keep in mind here is that NASA is just a customer here. We'll give them our payload. It's their responsibility to deliver the services. So the selection of a launch vehicle, building the lander, designing the mission is entirely on these vendors. And you'll hear from each of these companies a little bit about how they're doing that. NASA is taking a backseat role, if you will, in terms of how we participate. We design the payloads, we define the missions we want performed, but it's up to them to figure out how to do that. So this is going to be a very exciting time to enable the companies to often do what they're doing. You're going to see some very interesting and different approaches from the 3 companies you're going to hear from today that enable them to do the work we're asking them to do. So that, let's hear from the 3 company CEOs. I'll turn it over to Mr. John.
Hi, my name is John Thornton. I'm the CEO of Astrobotic. We started this journey to go back to the moon 12 years ago. We've been building the lunar payload market as well as our sales pipeline, and through all that time, up to this moment, we had 14 payloads, and today we're doubling that number to 28 with NASA joining our mission, and we're just incredibly thrilled, excited, and honored to be taking the world's best space agency along with us to the surface of the moon. So I think that this is just the beginning of a whole new era for lunar access. We're going to see routine, regular access for our countries and really the world's scientists. We're actually bringing 7 other nations with us as well, and inclusive of the U.S. So we also really are really happy to have international partners along with us and encourage more to join us in the coming years. So again, we're just overjoyed with CLIPS and really applaud NASA for this forward-thinking approach. And I think NASA is doing all the right things to foster this next generation and new industry for the moon.
Next.
Hello, Steve Artemis here, President and CEO of Intuitive Machines. Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to thank NASA for their demonstration of speed and agility in this procurement process. It's been an incredible journey over the past year, I think almost to the day, where we jumped into the draft RFP to compete for a shot at returning to the moon. And here we are a year later with 3 awardees returning to the moon, like Chris said. So it's congratulations on retooling NASA for speed and agility to get back to the moon. I also find it almost ironic that this is the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11, and I'm proud to say that we're the Houston, Texas team. I think about the words that were spoken from the moon 50 years ago that said, Houston, the eagle has landed. And we at Intuitive Machines hope that the next word spoken for the moon is Houston, Intuitive Machines has landed on the moon. So we look forward to that. We've come full circle, and it's going to be a hard 2 years before we land on the moon. We're going to have our heads down and coloring really hard. So thank you for this opportunity.
Hi, this is Siva Padi from Orbit Beyond. I'm the CEO and President. Orbit Beyond is excited for this opportunity to support NASA's Moon to Mars initiative. We are also awarded the 2 prototyping elements under NASA's HLS-BA. I would like to thank NASA for this CLPS platform, which will democratize landing services, reducing risk, and enabling additional private investment, leading to further innovation and cost reduction. We are very excited, and we hope to become a major player in the cislunar space, and we look forward to assisting NASA in its mission to Moon 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Very short and sweet, and let's get to the Q&A. Operator, I want to thank again Steve, Chris, and the CEOs for their opening remarks. Now let's take a deeper dive on this historic day for the Artemis program. Operator, over to you.
Right, thank you. We will now begin the question and answer session. To ask a question, please press star followed by 1. Please ensure that your phone is unmuted and record your name clearly when prompted. Again, that is star followed by 1 to ask a question. To withdraw your request, please press star 2. One moment, please, while we wait for questions to come in. Our first question comes from Eric Berger. Your line is now open.
Hi, and congratulations to the 3 companies that won contracts today. Just wondering from NASA's perspective, could you characterize, how you feel about the odds of success that these companies will land on the moon? I know this has previously been characterized as taking shots on goal. And so I was wondering maybe, do you expect about half of these landings to be successful? More than that, less than that? I'm just trying to get a sense of how optimistic we should be kind of about efforts by these commercial companies.
Eric, this is Steve Clark. Good question. What I'll tell you is I have high confidence in these 3 companies based on the fact that we put out a delivery task order. and we received proposals in, and these three companies showed what I would call credible technical plans, well thought out, with schedule and cost commensurate with the plans, and they identified the risks along the way, which are all commensurate with a very good technical and programmatic plan. And that's why they were selected. That's why you're seeing and hearing them today. So my confidence is high that these three companies here will succeed. Like with anything that's hard, space travel is hard. I don't doubt there will be some technical challenges along the way over the next 2 years. But that's to be expected, and I have confidence that those challenges will be overcome and we will be seeing successful landings on the moon here in the next 2 years.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Irene Klotz with Aviation Week. Your line is now open.
Hi, thanks very much. For Mr. Clark, previously NASA talked about getting payloads to the moon under CLPS as early as this year. Is this batch of awards the earliest that you're expecting to land instruments on the moon? And also wanted to know if you received offers from all 9 of the CLPS contractors.
Irene, let me answer the first part of that. So we initially put out the task order, knowing that we had instruments that we could provide as early as the end of this calendar year. What we didn't know was when would the commercial landers be ready. And that was the primary purpose of the task order, is for us to receive the proposals of again, I'll go back to that credible technical and programmatic plan of when they could achieve those landings. And when we received the proposals in and assessed all and awarded these, we found, of course, that Orbit Beyond is targeting September 2020 and Astrobotic and Intuitive Machines July 2021. And again, we have high confidence in those dates with these companies. So based on that, we'll be looking at the earliest in September 2020 to deliver payloads. And obviously we'll be tracking the progress with our commercial partners to see how that progresses. Now, I didn't catch the second part of your question.
I just was curious, of the 9 companies that are on the CLPS eligible to compete for this, how many proposals did you get?
We received eight proposals, and keep in mind that any task order that we do put out on to the CLPS providers, they can choose either to bid or not bid. They just need to let us know if which way they're going to go. So we received 8 proposals on this particular delivery task order.
Thanks very much.
Our next question comes from Jeff Faust with Space News. Your line is now open.
Good afternoon. Question probably for Steve Clark. When will you assign specific payloads to those landers, and what's the process of matching up payloads with the landers, since you specify some of the landers are going to only carry a few, one could carry up to 14? Thanks.
So Jeff, let me turn this over to Chris Colbert, and he'll answer.
Yeah, so each of the vendors gave us a proposal outlining which of the payloads they felt best matched their mission and their lander. Since we picked 3 of them, there's some overlap, and we're working through that. Within the next couple months, we'll have sorted out which payloads go on which landers. We're also looking into the option of creating some additional payloads to maximize our science return. We're actually quite pleased what we saw out of the vendor community. A lot of capacity and a lot of capability, and that's really attractive from a NASA perspective. It allows us to get even more bang for the buck.
Yeah, and let me add, this is Steve Clark, that the whole purpose is to certainly jumpstart the commercial lander business, but we want to do as much science as we can. And with awarding of 3 providers today, we want to maximize the science that we can do with those 3 providers. So just go along with what Chris said. That's how we're going to approach this with our partners here.
Next question, operator.
Our next question comes from Kenneth Chang with New York Times. Your line is now open.
Hi, thank you. I was wondering if you could give us more details of what the payloads are and how they help lead to the astronauts being on the moon, since these landing sites are not at the South Pole where the landings will be.
Sure. This is Chris Colbert. I'll start answering that one. So this first round of payloads were selected from hardware that was largely already ready, or things that we could have ready by the end of the year. So there's a variety of payloads that cover both some science interest in terms of characterizing the environment of the moon, as well as some demonstration of capabilities for future missions like the entry, descent, and landing. So in particular, what we're doing is gathering data about the moon's environment, and although the locations offer some difference, the moon is an airless environment. We learn a lot everywhere we go on the moon that will help us for the future human landings, and the demonstrations of the technologies like descent and landing capabilities are largely the same anywhere on the moon. So we'll get value out of all these payloads no matter where they go. And that was part of the criteria we used for putting this payloads together. This first mission, we wanted things that would give us value no matter where we went, because we were allowing the vendors to pick the location.
Yeah, and this is Steve Clark. And so this was, I think, a unique approach to get started, to make it as easy as we could for success. In future delivery task orders, I anticipate us specifying, say, a suite of science instruments and requesting to go to specific locations on the moon, because we know there are several locations on the moon that we want to investigate scientifically, not just the South Pole, the North Pole, far side, equatorial regions. There are significant scientifically interesting locations all across the surface of the moon. So in future task orders, we'll be providing more specificity of instruments and locations. And I think Steve Altemus would like to add on.
Yes, thank you, Steve. Steve Altemus, President and CEO of Intuitive Machines. In addition to NASA considering extensibility to human-landed systems, we as a company also commercially have thought about making investments in our lander so that we can better fill the needs for medium and large-scale landers. So our architecture for our particular lander is cryogenic propulsion, liquid oxygen, liquid methane. We fly specific precision landing and hazard avoidance technologies, and these particular technologies help us with deorbit, descent, and landing for human-landed systems and larger cargo missions. So our plan is, as a program, as a company, to establish a program that feeds not only small robotic landers, but all the way to boots on the surface of the moon.
And this is John Morse at Orbit Beyond, Chief Science Officer. I'll add to that we also want to make sure we keep as a company, we want to ensure that we keep a focus on some of the scientific capabilities that are out there. And so you'll see us talking at conferences and places where the academic community can also develop payloads, because the costs are such that the academic community and the commercial community can go through NASA, but it's also within reach of non-NASA funds, whether you're at a company or a university or a research institute, domestic or internationally. And so being able to develop payloads beyond NASA and court those customers is a very important aspect of what the companies are doing.
I believe the list of payloads that NASA has matched or will match to the landers is public. So I believe I don't have the reference, but I'm sure it's out there. And then following, Astrobotic was recently awarded a $10 million contract by NASA to develop our precision landing system, which will be demonstrated on the first mission. And it is a critical component of future human landers. We're going to want to be able to land where we want, put humans and boots on the ground in the right place. So that I think all of this is adding all up. I mean, we haven't landed on the surface of the moon as a nation in 46 years. So we need to go back, and we need to start small and then go bigger and bigger.
Next question, operator.
Our next question comes from Tariq Malik with Space.com. Your line is now open.
Hello, thank you very much. My question, I believe, is for the company representatives here today on launch vehicle selection. I believe during the earlier announcement, Orbit Beyond and Intuitive Machines both mentioned that you've tapped SpaceX for your flights, and I'm curious if your payloads will be primary payloads for those, the sole ones, or riding as a piggyback or a rideshare. And then for Astrobotic, how long can you wait to select a launch vehicle and still make your July 2020 date? Thank you.
Sure. John Thornton from Astrobotic. First is that we will ride on a secondary launch. We've been in partnership with ULA for several years, so we're in close communication with them. We've also had a relationship with SpaceX. We're going to be announcing our launch literally within the next few weeks. So we're well within our time frame to hit the landing date, and we're not too worried about that. Our lander is designed to fly on multiple launch vehicles, U.S. and also foreign, including Ariane. And the purpose of that is that we are addressing the worldwide market for payloads, and we have one lander that it becomes a product line that we can then launch from any location on Earth and then land at any location on the Moon.
And this is John Morse at Orbit Beyond. For our, let's call it, aggressive schedule, in order to land in third quarter of 2020, the launch vehicle is something that is on our critical path, so to speak, because we want to get into the manifest, which is very busy over the next few years. So we'll be engaging with SpaceX. They, like everyone else, is just learning. We've been selected, and so we have to get those contracts signed and get on their manifest for that Q3 2020 launch.
Again, Steve Altemus from Intuitive Machines. For us, we selected and are finalizing arrangements with SpaceX to be a primary payload on a Falcon 9. And what we'll do is have rideshare accommodations for a host of backlog payloads on the Falcon 9 that are destined for sun-synchronous orbit. And those will be dropped off first, and we'll head to geotransfer orbit, where the Nova-C lander will separate from Falcon 9 and then proceed with the translunar injection and subsequent burns all the way to the surface. So we're sharing, but primary on the Falcon 9.
Next question, operator.
Our next question comes from Bill Harwood with CBS News. Your line is now open.
Yeah, thanks, guys. One question I had was, when we were covering the Israeli Bear Sheet lander, one of the things they said that let them build the thing for a relatively low cost was the lack of redundancy. They didn't have a lot of backup systems and such as that. How do you guys stand in that regard? In other words, I'm just trying to get a better sense, following up on an earlier question about, the odds of success, since in their case, that might have made a difference. Thanks.
Hi, this is Sharad Bhaskaran. I'm the mission director at Astrobotic. So we looked at it there are critical systems that need to be redundant in order to ensure that the highest risk phases of the program can be mitigated. So that's kind of the way we looked at it, to look at what are the critical events, what subsystems drive performance during those critical events, and then finding the areas for redundancy within those subsystems. And so we broke it down that way, and so there is redundancy. There are areas where there's not, and we had to keep it that way in order to keep the cost of the spacecraft down and the mission down. But we went through a complete risk analysis, again, looking at all the critical events, and we looked at all the components to make sure that there were places where we could trade off maybe less risk for more spaceflight heritage components. Ultimately, again, looking for what are those critical events, mission critical events, what subsystems drive those events, and how do we ensure that we have the highest likelihood of success at those events and retire the risk progressively throughout the program.
This is Tim Crane. I'm the VP of Research and Development at Intuitive Machines.
We're nearly one fault tolerant across the board in our electronics and avionics, our sensor suite, our compute platform, our communications. All of those, we just felt that the environmental exposure warranted some backup capability there. Of course, because of our specific design, we have a main engine, so systems like the propulsion system are built for minimum risk, and we'll spend time there. But propulsion structures, power distribution, those are susceptible to a different set of environmental conditions that we feel are more manageable in a single string system.
And this is John Morse at Orbit Beyond. Following the same strategy of risk assessment, and then you do the testing that you need to do. What's germane about this first flight, especially, is its duration and what we're doing. We're required to do one lunar day, and then we're only spending not too long in lunar orbit. So the mission duration is not that long, and it allows us to look at the redundancy issue a little differently than we would if we had a 2-year mission in some environment. And so I'll stop there and pass on.
I think we covered everything. So operator, next question.
Our next question comes from Dan Vergano from BuzzFeed News. Your line is now open.
Thanks. This is Dan Vergano, BuzzFeed News. I was wondering, could you say from these critical risk reviews what you see as the most risky area? Where should we be most nervous about during these missions? Is it too much to take away from the Israeli mission that landing itself is the most risky part, or is it launch or deployment, or what are the risk points?
Sharad Bastran with Astrobotic. I'm the mission director. During these reviews, we do a fairly comprehensive look at all the risks at that stage of the program. Now, keep in mind that the risks will change as we progress through the program. And so at certain phases, maybe some systems haven't been tested well or analyzed well, but then once we pass that phase, because of the analysis, the testing we've done, maybe the risk moves on to another type of part of the mission or element or component. And so by going through that, I would say at this phase, we can't share the details of where we see the most risk in our mission, but there are elements that we're looking at right now to see if we can add some either redundancy or maybe even select a higher reliable part. But certainly, power descent is a very critical phase for the mission, and that's why we're trying to use the best devices, the best components, the best sensors to ensure that phase is successful, and that's kind of the way we're approaching it.
And this is John Morse at Orbit Beyond again. Same thing, that descent phase with the autonomous landing is the one that we'll all be holding our breath. But it's about testing, making sure your components, and it's not just hardware, it's also software and how it interfaces with the environment as you're going down into your landing. So I think for this mission, that is the most challenging, is to make that soft landing in an autonomous way.
And Steve Altimus from Intuitive Machines. This is a fast-paced program by design. So the schedule, 2 years, is aggressive in every case. And I would say the CLIPS program in and of itself selected 9 vendors to compete, and I would contend that there aren't 9 lunar lander-capable teams in the United States. So the workforce and the skill mix of our teams are very critical in building the right talent to build the right lander with the right amount of testing. So I think it's over the next 2 years, the companies that can field the team to put the right amount of engineering into the lander will be the ones that are successfully landing on the moon. I think from a technical standpoint, we like to worry about the technical risks. In our case, we took some known risks on our side for a cryogenic propulsion system, LOX and methane, because of its scalability, and we're proficient with that. So we have some challenges in cryofluid management for the development of our lander, but we think we have those well in hand. Tim, did you have anything to add?
Well, I did. This is Tim Crane from Intuitive Machines again, and it's funny. So John Morrison, I've not met much, but we're like mine on a lot of issues. The deorbit, descent, and landing phase. You know, the Mars program has their 20 minutes of terror. For
It's only 7.
Only 7. I bet it only feels like 20. Anyways, so they have that EDL phase at Mars that everything has to work just so. And even though we're not contending with an atmosphere, regardless of which of our systems we're talking about and which design, the orbital mechanics dictate that there's always a chance of recovery if something should go wrong prior to beginning powered descent. But absolutely, once we begin the powered descent phase, everything has to work just so. And so that nicety of making sure that your system works for the first time in space, 250,000 miles from home, that's no small feat.
Thanks very much, guys.
Our next question comes from Constantine Case with MIT Technology Review. Your line is now open.
Hi, yes, thank you. I had 2 very quick questions. The first is, from what I've read in the RFP, there are milestone payments to the 3 companies from NASA, not just you've successfully landed and here's the payment. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the structure of those, and also a little bit more about the timeline and what will be on the next task order that's to come after this. Thank you.
All right, so this is Chris Carver. I'll talk about the payment milestone. So this was largely, we left at the discretion of the vendors. This is a fixed price contract, so they have to structure the payments in whatever way makes sense for their mission profile. We recognized that going in, so the RFP was structured to propose, to essentially allow the vendors to propose back to us both the content of each of the key milestones and the amount of money attached to it. And each vendor has their own methodology for deciding how that made sense to them and how that works out. On the NASA side, what we're doing is making sure that makes sense in some meaningful way, and then the vendors actually accomplish the milestones the way they said they would. But the content of the milestone and the dollars associated with it is up to the vendor, and we suspect that's based on both their business model and their technical development path. And the next question, Steve, maybe you can talk about future missions.
Yeah, Steve Clark, NASA headquarters. We have already initiated the next task order, which is actually a study task order, different from a delivery task order, and we're going to be awarding those here soon. And what we want to do is look at what capabilities from a mobility standpoint, such as rovers, and enhanced landing capability, which means landing capability to take a rover that can perform science and technology demonstration, and we're leaning towards ISRU, the In-Situ Resource Utilization approaches that we want to look at. And so we want to ask all of our looking at CLPS providers, what kind of capabilities do you have planned? What do you have on the books now? When could they be ready? Because as you can tell, we issued the first delivery task order, but we're not stopping there. We're looking at creating what I call a good cadence of missions, and I think we can do from our science strategy and ISRU strategy, we can do this with what we call static landers, but also rovers. We need that mobility capability to go to several different locations after you've landed, take several data measurements, and so that study task order will be released shortly. And then we're also under discussions right now internal to NASA when we want to release the next delivery task order. So you're going to be hearing about this quite a bit. This is just the start of what we hope to have our several missions. We're looking at hopefully building up to a cadence of a couple of missions per year. And then maybe out in the 23-24 time frame, hopefully increasing that cadence up to 3 to 4 missions per year, going to several locations across the surface of the moon.
This is Tim Crane from Intuitive Machines again, just to give a little bit of perspective of what it's like to work with the CLPS program. They make their dates, and they're crisp. If the CLIPS program says they plan to release RFP or a draft task order request by the end of the month. You were well advised to not make plans after the 21st. And I say that as someone who works on the proposal team. So we definitely appreciate that Christmas and being able to work with those schedules and keep those milestones from your end is very helpful for us as a commercial company.
And this is John Thornton from Astrobotic. Just relating to the first question with milestones. So the way our milestones are designed is the same way for other customers that are signed up already for the mission. So there's progress milestones that are regularly spread out through the course of time. So NASA is aligned with those other 14 customers of ours, and we're off and running and ready to go for the moon.
Okay. Next question, operator.
Our next question comes from Tim Fernholz with Course. Your line is now open.
Hi, guys. Thank you for doing this. This is Tim Fernholz from Quartz. I just wanted to ask how much involvement NASA's team will have in, technical assurance inspections. I know in some of the other commercial programs there are a number of engineers on site for certain things. So I'm curious what that will be for CLIPS and how many people are on NASA's CLIPS team right now.
All right, this is Steve Clark, NASA headquarters. I've got a bunch of people looking at me really close, particularly the CEO. All kidding aside, as I mentioned in the opening remarks, this is a new, innovative approach that we, NASA, are taking to do science. And when I say we are buying a ride, that's literally what we're doing. We are looking for these providers to deliver our payloads to the surface. They're responsible for the launch, the lander itself, landing it, and making sure that we can operate our instruments on the surface of the moon. So with that, we are not going to be doing the traditional NASA insight oversight into the lander systems. We are going to work with our providers here to determine when it's appropriate as customers to be at certain meetings to track the progress of how their lander development is going. And looking at how they're retiring their risks leading up to when we have to deliver our payloads for integration onto the landers. So this is going to be really a true partnership. This is not going to be NASA's standard insight oversight approach that we do on other missions and what we've done in the past. It's going to be an interesting, I think, partnership as we go along. We're going to learn how to work with our partners and they're going to learn to work with us as well. I can tell you from a headquarters standpoint, we have a robust office of 4, including myself. And then I'll let Chris answer of how many he has at the CLIPS project office at Johnson Space
My project office at JSC, including our procurement support team, is less than 7 people. So that's managing 3 contracts that are all going to the moon at the same time. So this is really a new model for NASA. We aren't used to doing business this way. We will not have dozens of engineers. I won't be sending 15 engineers to go watch over three engineers at the companies. I might have one guy there at the review. We're sending payloads on their services. This is a new model for us.
Very lean approach.
Yeah.
Can I just follow up on that, though? I mean, we've heard this same new model talk with the Commercial Crew Program, but seeing that really end up having a lot more insight than was promised. Are you guys comfortable now saying we don't need that, having looked at the lessons of that program?
That certainly plays into it, right? We've learned a lot over the last few years with both commercial cargo and commercial crew. There's an important distinction to make, though. There's no humans involved in the missions. There's no human lives at stake. These are science missions at the beginning, or technology demonstrations, so the amount of risk we can take on the NASA side is certainly higher. But we've also learned through the process of working with commercial vendors the extent to which they've developed their infrastructure, their depth of capability, and their own knowledge bases. And that allows us to take a further step back. We actually have quite a bit of confidence, and these companies in particular demonstrated that through very strong proposals, that they understand the missions they're going to undertake. And that lets us take a lighter load.
John Thornton from Astrobotic. Just to NASA's credit, we've been a CLIPS, a Catalyst partner of NASA for almost 5 years now, where it's been a public-private partnership of working together on our lander. NASA took the right approach with that. They gave the decision-making to us. They said, here's the options, here's what we've learned, here are the ways we've done it before, and gave the reins over to us. And at every point, I can say NASA took the right approach. And to me, CLIPS feels like a continuation of that same approach. So as Astrobotic, we're very confident and excited to have NASA as a customer, along with our other customers for the first mission, and we're looking forward to it.
This is Sherrod Bhaskar on Astrobotic. I also want to add that we really appreciate the approach that NASA's taken with this CLIPS program. But I will say that we have, within our own company, established quite a bit of rigor to ensure that the product that we develop and the process we use has a lot of checkpoints and control gates. We use our partners, our experienced partners, to help us so that we're not just sitting around the table and telling ourselves that we're doing a great job. We're actually having independent reviewers tell us we're going in the right direction so that we can give NASA the confidence, without the level of insight that in the traditional development program, that they know that we are making good progress, and based on using sound technologies, using proven tools and approaches and methodologies, that we have a high chance of success.
This is Tim Crane from Intuitive Machines. One of the things that was evident from the request for task order proposal was an emphasis on payload integration. So while there's not going to be a whole lot of NASA insight into our vehicle systems, it was very clear that they wanted to know that we understood how to integrate, protect, safely handle the payloads they were going to entrust. So there will be interaction there. They're not cavalier at all. When they deliver those payloads, there'll be some strong interaction to make sure that those systems are properly handled and have a high probability of success independent from our primary systems on the spacecraft.
And this is John Morse at Orbit Beyond. Echoing my colleagues, we want to make sure we have a robust relationship with the payloads, whether they're NASA or non-NASA payloads that integrate. And this is something new from the other direction as well, providing a service for NASA. Because usually when you have a science mission with a lander and instruments, that you have a team that's selected from the beginning. But as Chris and Steve have already noted, we'll still be juggling some of the payloads, possibly on what the manifests are. And then we're all looking forward to integrating university and other research institute payloads later on future missions. But I sort of make the analogy that, we're the taxi and we're going to a destination and we're taking along our passengers. But if I'm sitting in the back of the taxi, typically the driver doesn't get on the phone with me and talk about what my interests are or goals are. And so we also want to be mindful that all these payloads and the science goals or whatever technology measurements they want to make, we're trying to provide a service that enables those customers to do what they want to do. And it's a little bit, that's our vision, is an enabler. And we're relying on the customers to speak for themselves.
And before we take the next question, this is Dwayne Brown from Communications. I want to just give a time check that we're about 14 minutes before we're going to conclude. We've got a number of media that are still calling in for questions. We want to get to the new ones. We've got some other ones with follow-ups. So we'll make sure that we get you with the appropriate folks to do any follow-up interviews. But don't want to keep these folks too long. They're going back to the moon, so we don't want to keep them on the phone too much longer. So for the next few questions, please, just one question, and then we're going to wrap up with final words from Steve Clark. So, operator, next question.
Our next question is from Leo Enright with Irish TV. Your line is now open.
Thanks very much. Dwayne, I hope I can prevail upon you to take two questions. One is simply this. How many European customers are asking to get onto these three taxis? Is anyone actually actively discussing with European researchers? And my other question is, do any of you three have the capacity as we speak to land a 300-kilogram rover at the South Pole Aitken Basin?
This is John Morris over at Beyond. Just from us, we are engaged with European scientists, and we are looking at one European payload, which is a retroreflector, and we will continue to expand our associations throughout Europe and the other continents. This lander, we have tens of kilograms of payload capacity. It's not designed to have a large rover, like you were saying, but that is the step we're taking after this flight. And so this flight is designed specifically to achieve scale for both the lander and the roving capabilities in the future.
Just to add, this is Siva Padi from Orbit Beyond. Our second mission, we are planning to have a much larger capacity, about 500 kilograms.
And Steve Altimus from Intuitive Machines. We are engaged in discussions with the Italian Space Agency about some potential payloads. And in addition, you hear Steve Clark and Chris Culbert talk about a task order that was out that they're making a decision on that actually asks for a study of mid-sized landers and rovers. And so, in fact, I know we, and I'm sure the other CLIPS vendors, are putting together their designs for mid-scale landers in the class that you're talking about. And so our plan is to on-ramp, certainly we have a scalable version with our cryogenic system, propulsion system, but our plan is to quickly scale to mid-size to handle these size missions that you're looking for. So just let you know that's right around the corner. And I think with where NASA appears to be telegraphing where they're going, they need this capability as much as the Europeans do.
John Thornton from Astrobotic. First, for Europe, we actually already have 3 payloads from Europe signed up on the mission already. We have another that we've been selected for that is not yet public, so we'll be announcing another before too long. We've had fantastic collaborations with Europe and their vision for the moon, in particular with Director Warner. So we're very excited about their vision and what that could be, and we look forward to a long partnership with them. As far as the pole and getting rovers down there, we do have a larger vehicle called Griffin, which is about twice the size of Peregrine. That is designed to take a large rover that can sit up on top of that vehicle, go to the poles of the moon or any location on the moon. We also have a rover called Polaris that fits right up on top of that vehicle, and that's about a 300-kilogram rover that can deliver about 90 kilograms of mobile payload across the surface of the moon. So we are looking forward to deploying that on the surface, and I should also probably mention our first mission already has 2 or maybe 3 rovers on it right now, and there may be another one in the pipe.
And Leo, this is Steve Clark, NASA headquarters. I just wanted to add, I spoke at the European Lunar Symposium last week and certainly had many productive discussions with many of our European colleagues. And in fact, we do have a European contribution to one of the NASA-provided payloads that will be flying on these first missions as well. So that's already started. And my discussions with several of the space agencies around the world have ramped up quite a bit over the last month and a half, actually, particularly with the acceleration in 2024 for the human mission. And every agency would like to play a part in humanity's return to the moon. And we at NASA are looking at various ways where they can contribute, particularly in the science area. So I expect you'll hear more in the coming months and next year as those talks progress and we actually make some agreements on how the Europeans will contribute in various ways.
Next question, operator.
Our next question comes from Jim Siegel with Spaceflight Insider. Your line is now open.
Jim, are you with us? Let's go to the next question, operator.
Our next question comes from Julia Miracle with Pittsburgh Business Times. Your line is now open.
Hi, thank you. I had previously heard that NASA would be announcing about $2.6 billion worth of payloads with the CLIPS program, and I was hoping you could just update that number for me, I guess, and tell me, how much of that is in this first round, how that's broken up between the three companies.
Sure, this is Chris Calvert. I'll help you with that. The total contract value, when NASA puts a contract in place, we establish the value of the contract over the entire life. So over the 10-year span of this contract and the 9 vendors we have, we can spend up to $2.6 billion across the entire life. This is our first major award under the contract, and the total of these three is in the range of $250 to $260 million. So we have quite a bit of contract capacity left after this set of missions, and of course, as Steve noted, that will be spent over the years in future missions as we up the cadence.
Next question, operator.
Our next question comes from Ken Krimmer with Space Up Close. Your line is now open.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for doing this. My question is about, for Steve Clark probably, South Pole. When are we really going to go to the South Pole? When will you talk about, when will we have instruments to sample the water ice there that you've been talking about a lot to live off the land? So when will we have that sample? When will we determine the composition of those lunar water ices? Thanks.
So this is Steve. That's an excellent question, and in fact, we've been discussing when it would be the right time to release a task order to specify the South Pole region and what instruments we would want to take there. So we are actively working that internally. We'd like to get there as soon as possible. We are also working on an in-house NASA rover to be able to deliver as early as late 2022, early 2023. And so we're trying to look at how we want to integrate that along with additional missions to the South Pole. As I mentioned before, we don't want to just go there once. We want to go there several times with various science instruments. We want to have several rover missions in the future to go to several locations. And we're also talking about when we do the first lunar sample return mission as well. So those are all interesting topics that we are discussing now internally, and so again, stay tuned. You'll see how that strategy rolls out.
Thank you.
Operator, we'll take 2 more questions, and then we'll begin to wrap up. Go ahead.
Okay, our next question comes from Natrum Hernandez with Tokyo Broadcasting System. Your line is now open.
Hi, kind of along the lines with the other person asking for European. What other nations have you been partnering with to bring to the moon? And are there any Asian companies or any Asian people that you will be partnering with? Thank you.
We'll start with the CEOs. Go ahead.
Yeah, so John Thornton from Astrobotic. We have 8 nations represented on our first mission, including the U.S. So we have Mexico with the Mexican Space Agency flying with us. We have the UK. We have Hungary. We have Japan represented twice. And we just announced that we're bringing Canadensis to the moon, so Canada is flying with us. And which one am I forgetting? Oh, Chile, yes, indeed. And Chile is the 7th nation flying with us. I think what's particularly exciting about that is that there have been only 3 nations that have ever landed on the moon, and they've all been superpowers. So for the first time through in partnership with the CLIPS program, there will be more nations accessing the moon and having their Apollo moments. And I think it's incredibly humbling and exciting to be a part of that story, and we're just thrilled.
This is Tim Crane from Intuitive Machines. We've definitely been courting customers from Asia and other continents. So without being specific, we definitely are looking to expand our customer base. We're open for business and are excited to see how much we can grow the non-NASA and non-governmental side of this, because really it's the commercial aspect that'll make this go and really supercharge the whole endeavor. And the extent that NASA becomes a customer, the better off the whole endeavor will be for all of our companies.
Hi, this is Siva Padi from Orbit Beyond. We are in dialogue with customers in Japan, China, Europe, and other places in Asia. Today has been the announcement, so we'll be reaching out to them to finalize the payloads because they were not enough for us to go to the moon.
This is Steve Clark, headquarters. Along those lines, from an agency-to-agency standpoint, we have very strong international relationships between the international space agencies. We have a lot of framework agreements in place, and we're continuing to leverage those agreements. I've been in meetings and discussions with JAXA, and of late we signed an exploration working group charter with KASI, the Korean Astronomy and Science Institute, South Korea. And this group is looking at ways that the two agencies can collaborate in such a way to fly science instruments and payloads using our CLIPS partners. So as you can probably tell from what you heard all across the table here, there are several entry points for our international colleagues that want to pursue science or education payloads or technology payloads to fly with our CLIPS providers. And I want to emphasize what Tim Crane said. It's the whole purpose here is to have this commercial industry be successful. And the government agencies can't be the anchor customers. It's really important that there is broad spectrum of customers, non-government, government, so forth, to make this thing work. So we're looking forward to, again, NASA being just one of many customers.
Okay. Again, my apologies to other media. We'll get you some answers on some follow-up calls. We're going to take one last question and toss it to Steve Clark, and then I'll wrap up. So, operator, one last question.
Our next question comes from Jeff Faust with Space News. Your line is now open.
Great. Thanks for the follow-up opportunity. Just wanted to ask the three companies if they can say how far along they are technically and financially in developing the landers they plan to launch in 2020 and 2021. Thanks.
Sure. This is John Thornton from Astrobotic. We completed our PDR last year. We're heading into our CDR. The big developments that are upcoming is an STM, structural test model of the lander, and also the integrated avionics unit. In terms of funding, we're now fully funded for the mission, ready to launch. We do have a small handful of kilograms remaining for payload customers. We're already in conversations with a bunch of folks for those, so we're going to be closing the manifest completely very, very soon. But all in all, we're off and running and ready for July 21 landing.
This is Siva Padi from Orbit Beyond. We have an engineering model ready. We have already have advanced payment for the flight hardware. So far as funding goes, we are in process to close funding. So that is still being worked out. But otherwise, technically, we are on schedule to be able to meet the deadlines that we have proposed in our proposal.
And Steve Artemis from Intuitive Machines. I'm proud to say that we're firing our LOX methane flight engine with the flight software on a flight processor. Currently, we've had test flights or test firings last week and next week and all through the summer. We'll be doing that to refine the performance of the propulsion system and the software. And our goal here is to put the integration milestones together for the subsystems so that we wring out the problems and the risks, any problems and the risks early in the design development process. We have a fully designed lander. We'll have a milestone here with NASA on our architecture review here in the next 2 weeks. And we're fully funded and off and running and ready to commit to July of 2021.
Okay. Steve Clark. First of all, I want to thank everybody for the great questions today. I want to again congratulate the three companies, Astrobotics, Intuitive Machines, and Orbit Beyond, for the task order awards. I'm looking forward to working with all of you as we move forward to September 2020 and July 2021 dates. This is the start of building a robust cadence of missions returning to the moon. And, we're going to do science investigations, we're going to do technology demonstrations, we're going to do ISRU. One important thing about this is a lot of what we are doing, we are going to advance human exploration of the surface of the moon. A lot of what we do in precursor missions before 24 are going to help inform that first return mission for humans and the subsequent missions after that. So I don't want anyone to not understand the importance of that science and human exploration goals are going together, which is, I have seen over the last year a very good synergy between the Human Spaceflight Directorate and the Science Mission Directorate and our Space Technology Mission Directorates working together towards these goals. I also want to thank Goddard for hosting us today for this entire event. Again, I talked to Michelle and her team. I want to thank my staff, too, for all of the hard work they've done, and certainly the CLIPS project office as well. We're off and running, and we're going. We're ready to go.
I like that. So this is Dwayne Brown. We're going to close out, and operator, I'll toss it back to you. I also want to amplify thanking the Goddard Space Flight Center for hosting this historic day for NASA's Artemis program. I know a lot of the media on this call, you would never know. I guess you would. You can call me. I can let you know how Goddard pulled this off in 2 days. Impossible, but they did it. We also have replays of this call for about a month, so I'll call your respective communications officers, and we'll get you that number. There are lots of products, multimedia products, to talk about this historic day, and I'm sure the companies, and you saw some of their cool stuff on just a fantastic day. So what you saw is government and commercial partnership at its very best. Back to the moon real soon. We're going. Over to you, operator. Take us home.
All right, that does conclude today's conference. You may disconnect at this time. Thank you.